But we're going to talk about minor pentatonic scales today, and you're going to come to this saying, I already know my minor pentatonic scales. But my question is, do you? Do you really know them? Because I have taught hundreds of students over the years who can proficiently play, whether it be with other folks or live gigs or whatever. And, you know, they confess to me, sometimes in secret, hey, I don't really know all my minor scale shape, my minor pentatonics. Should I know them? And yes is the answer, because what I think learning a minor pentatonic scale everywhere on the guitar does for you is it opens up everything else. We'll be able to drop in notes for natural minor. Obviously, that can be major scales as well, blues scale, everything you can think of, I think, could be construed out of the minor pentatonic. And that is actually how I learned. And why do we start there? Well, we start there because so much of our favorite music that we want to play, emulate, or create on our own on guitar is easily discovered with minor pentatonic scales. And it's important to have a really, really great knowledge of them. So we're going to talk about a few things. We're also going to put a course on a deep discount. We'll talk about that. And we're going to talk about a guitar giveaway as well. And what we'll do is I'll teach for probably 15 or 20 minutes or so. And then you guys fire off your questions. It can be about minor pentatonic scales. It can be about anything music, guitar related. We'll have some fun, and it'll make for a good live stream. And I apologize if you see me looking around a little bit here and there. I have a screen up there, and I have a screen here monitoring your chat, so I have to adjust my software from time to time. So I'll try not to get too distracted, but please fire off your comments, your questions. I'd love to hear from you. We're going to take this for the next 10, 15 minutes or so and see what shakes out. So first of all, let's take a look at the minor pentatonic scale as it is from the ground up. It is basically 5-note scale, 5 pentatonic tones. And a lot of us start with an A minor pentatonic scale, which starts on that 6-string 5th fret A. Our next note in the sequence is C. Our next note in the sequence is D, E, and G. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then it starts over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, and as far as we can go in that specific spot on the guitar. Now, we're not going to talk about too much theory as to why a pentatonic scale is what it is. We can definitely do that. But I want to get you to just see it, play it, hear it, feel it under your fingers, all that kind of stuff. Because I feel like inspiration comes when we have the tools, we make something, and then we can go back and reverse engineer it, okay? So those 5 notes, A, C, D, E, G, and again, A, C, D, E, G, A, C, okay? So now folks say to me, well, if I want to play the next sequence, do I move the whole scale pattern? No, we don't do that. What we want to do is play those same 5 notes, but what I call go to the next person in the rotation or the batting order. If our next note from A is C, well, our next position is going to start on a C, and we're going to go through the batting order. C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D. Okay, so it repeats those same notes, and I have a little graphic there for us, okay? And you can see that in position 2, it starts like this, and you see my fingers will mimic that. And some people will ask, should I learn all these shapes before I start connecting them? That's my advice. So we got 2 out of 5 right there. Pattern 1 started on the 1st degree of that scale. Pattern 2 started on the 2nd degree of that scale. Now when we go over to position 3, you guessed it, we're going to start on the 3rd note in the sequence, which is D. So we have D, E, G, A, C. Okay, and keep going. Now what I like to do in that, and we can talk about fingerings and things that work for us that might not work for other people and vice versa. I always say if you can play it with your toes and it sounds good, that's fine with me. But I like to keep the fingerings as I'm showing you here. So what I've done up to this point, which some folks may not have really realized, is that you've played the same 5 notes in 2 octaves, sometimes 3 octaves, and we've connected them like links in a chain. Sorry. There we go. And that's going to be important in a moment. I'm going to show you about that once we get through our patterns. So pattern 4 starts on the E note, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4th note of that scale sequence. So it's scale, the notes in the scale. So we go 12, 15, which is E, G, A, C. So A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G. Now our last note in the sequence, and it's always, the second one that you play is going to be G, and that's going to be G, A, C, D, E, G, A. There's our root. And you'll notice in our diagram that every sort of shaded in note there is the root, so it would show you where the root lived. Now, once we're at A minor pentatonic here, well, which is all those were A minor pentatonic, but starting on that root, if we want to use the real estate back here, we have to think backwards and reverse engineer it. So now we have pattern 5, because pattern 5 connects to pattern 1. Now, if we want to go even further, we could play pattern 4 with some open strings. That's really helpful, because now what you've done is you've covered the ground, and of course your number 1 pattern up the double octave there would be as such, okay? So you've covered the whole guitar now with A minor pentatonic scales. It's really one scale throughout the whole instrument, and that's what makes guitar as tricky as it is, because if you learned it one way on piano, it would be the same every 12 notes, you would always be able to play the same set of notes in the same way. It makes it visually much more appealing than learning these shapes on guitar. Now notice I didn't yell out a lot of frets in strings, because I try to just look at the diagram like we have up for you and say, okay, I got to make sense out of this the best way that I can. How are we going to do this? And what's going to happen is I want you to really learn these patterns to the best of your ability, even before you start changing keys. Now, there is a little caveat there. One thing you can do is, if you really know the pattern, sometimes what I like to do is start to move that into some different keys as well. But even when I learn a new scale that's challenging, maybe a melodic minor scale or a diminished scale, something I'm not as familiar with, altered scale, I really try to get it down in one key. Now, the good thing for us is that there's a lot of visual repetition in these scales too. They call it the box. It's very box-like. It stays within 4 frets most times. So you can see that pretty clearly on the guitar. But when it comes to improvising, that's where people get hung up, because they know the scale, and I'll never forget this one. I was trying to jam. My father played guitar, and I learned all my scales, and he came home from work, and we started jamming, and he said, take a solo, and I started to do it, and he goes, you don't know your scales, and put the guitar down. And that was pretty much it. So I was like, what does he mean? Of course I know them. I didn't know how to make music and how to solo with them. So that's what we want to talk about also today. So we had a nice little sort of overview of the minor pentatonic scale, not a deep theory dive for today, but just know that if you're playing over dominant chords, or you're playing over minor chords, or even power chords, the minor pentatonic scale is usually the go-to for most of us, not only when we're starting to play guitar, but throughout all of our guitar playing life. So now if we're playing over a blues progression, which I have set up in a looper here. I probably should have done that second, played over one chord first, but either way, we'll get the point across. I like to have people try to stay on 2 strings, whether it's the 4th and 3rd string, or the 3rd and 2nd string, or the 2nd and 1st strings, and just try to make music as much as you can, and then we're going to start to expand into some other patterns and positions. There's 2 or 3 ways you can approach this so that you could start improvising. So if you're only in one pattern, let's try to make it simple. So here we go, blues and A. We're gonna play on strings 2 and 3. So I never played an A there. I could do strings 3 and 4. So you're limiting yourself. This is a good thing. So we get the idea there, strings 2 and 3, and it's going to be harder on different string sets, but that's just the exercise, it's just the practice. So we could go to strings 1 and 2, and then we could start to add strings 2 and 3, 3 and 4, stuff like that. Just as an example, as an exercise, get acquainted with this new language. So here's strings 1 and 2. Pick slip there. Notice I'm bending? That's allowed. Your techniques are allowed. Let's go to 3 and 4, or 2 and 3. 2 and 3. 1 and 2. 2 and 3. 3 and 4. How about 4 and 5? Three and 4. 2 and 3. 1 and 2. 3 and 4. 5 and 6. So you see, that's just a way to get acquainted with a particular pattern. And you can do that in each of the 5 patterns, okay? That's a really, really helpful thing, because lots of times what I find is when students will, let's just take that first pattern. It's like giving an infant a dictionary, or a toddler, someone that's just starting to speak, and say, you know, go up and stand behind that podium and give a speech. They're not going to be able to do it. They haven't had enough time with the language. And you end up sounding like this. You get the idea. Many of you probably have done that in your playing infancy and be like, wow, it doesn't sound like what Corey's doing. Because when you only restrict yourself to a few string sets, you can only go so far, and you have to make music with what you have. So you have all of this vocabulary just there, and it could get worse. It could get... And you don't want to do that. You want to create little thoughtful phrases and words with a restricted area. So it's like a restricted area that you can only stay in, right? And that's really, really important. Okay, so I hope everybody's getting that, and I want to get to your chat questions and comments here momentarily. And those that are watching this post the live stream, this is how I want to do it, because I want somebody that tunes in for the first 15 or 20 minutes to be like, okay, I got this, and they may not be interested in the chat, but I'm going to leave it in the replay. I'm not going to edit it out, because there's some things that some of you will say that'll be valuable for folks, and I want it to be a big positive experience, okay? So the way to really start to step out, because you want to take that idea of staying and restricting yourself, get it? So we want to stay on those 2 strings. We want to do it in each pattern. Sometimes it's not going to sound very good, but you're still learning that neighborhood, okay? If I dropped you in a neighborhood and said you could only go in these 3 blocks, you're really going to know those 3 blocks after like a week. So imagine that. All you got to do is spend a week on that particular minor pentatonic scale, and you're going to have it, okay? Right. So I've cataloged a lot of metaphors over the years. I do enjoy using them. But in any case, now we want to start to kind of zip around the guitar in this fashion, this linear fashion, as opposed to this sort of more rigid area. It seems to be the thing everybody wants to do. So now we're going to take that string set idea, but we're going to move it in between patterns. So we're going to stay on strings 2 and 3. Just pick 2. Okay, so if you know your patterns, restrict yourself to 2 strings and see what you can come up with. It's going to be really fun. And if you go to a 3rd string every once in a while, that's okay. Still strings 2 and 3. How about maybe 1 and 2? One, 2, and 3. Get the idea, okay? So that's a way to kind of compose a solo or soloing ideas, improvising ideas, but restricting yourself. And I think that's so important. And it makes licks kind of happen out of thin air, because watch what happens. Let's say you know this, or let me think of a blues lick. Great classic blues lick, right? But we take that string approach, we take that as our improvising, and then we go back to our lick. Because people say, well, how do I use my licks? Save them as things in your holster. You know what I mean? Like, you got a quiver. You're going to pull this arrow out, and that's your lick, okay? So that's the strings 3 and 2. So I abandoned the string set, went to the lick. Lick. Still thinking string, lick. So I can drop my lick in when I'm playing my little improvised lines and my restricted area licks that I'm coming up with on the spot, okay? So some different ways to approach it, and I realized I'd never made a course on minor pentatonic scales. Now, I do have a beginner blues soloing course. We're not talking about that one today because that one, well, you could, because that one talks about all 5 scales, gives you some really basic solos. That one's on working class guitar. But what I thought was also cool, a lot of you will have a handle on minor pentatonic. And the other thing I hear people say is, I can't make major pentatonic work. I don't know how. So I did create a course called Major Pentatonic Unlocked, and that one is on sale in the chat. We have a deep discount, 60% off on that one. BB has the links. BB joining us, giving us a sound check. I haven't been watching the chat, but I think he did say everything was good. I saw that and just kind of let it rip from there. So BB, our moderator for me and many other folks playing guitar on the internet. Always appreciate BB's time. But yeah, so Major Pentatonics Unlocked. There's a link in the chat for 60% off, deep discount. There's only 25 copies available at that discount. So go grab those. And we also have a really cool contest to win an Epiphone. It's the Inspired by Gibson Kirk Hammett Greeny 1959 Les Paul. And I just did a video for that recently where I was talking about the features and was this thing actually priced too high? Well, if you think it's priced too high and you want to win it, There you go. Click the link, drop your email in. This unfortunately is open to U.S. residents only. It's really tough for me as an individual person to ship something overseas and then it gets lost or it gets stolen, and I have to track all that down. Then I have to try to source out another guitar to get it to you. It's a big problem. If we had a distributor that we were working with in Europe or somewhere else, we'll be able to do more U.S. International giveaways, which I'd like to, but we're growing, and it's all because of you guys. And we've grown. We're almost at 98,000 subscribers, very close to 100,000. So thank you for all your support and your patronage. Appreciate it. So hopefully that made sense to you guys. I want to check out the chat and talk to you because I know you guys are going to have some questions about all this stuff. So forgive me looking up at the screen. That's how I check the texts here and there, and I also can highlight text too, like Mark saying, good afternoon or morning, peoples. Good afternoon to you, Mark. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Thanks for everybody joining us. So good. Sooty Face says, I don't see the discount. Sorry if that's not working. We should have a 60% discount. If it's not, you can always email me at support at workingclassguitar.com. Can't read and think at the same time. All right, we're going to jump into some gear questions. Just bought a GE7. And why is okay, I got to get my chat window going for you guys. Just bought a GE7. Where in my chain should I place it? Behind, boost, or distortion? That is a great question. You can kind of see it. You can't see it there, but I have a GE7 on this pedal board. I like to use it as an overall boost of everything. So the problem is, if you put it, and I'll get to your direct question. Oftentimes what happens if I boost for a solo, you're now boosting into reverb and delay, and those are getting more signal and they're getting louder too. So your reverb and delay would be boosted. So I have the board wired so that the GE7 is the final thing in my chain after reverbs, after everything, so that the whole picture is elevated, not just my one sound going into it, thus making the reverb overwhelming. I do love a GE7 as a clean boost. I think it's one of the best options because you can really detail it to what you want. If what I mentioned didn't interest you, you could do it one of two ways. You could put it as a boost after your overdrive, because what will happen is then it's just going to make that stuff louder. If you put it before your overdrive, you're sending more signal into your overdrive pedal. Thus, it's basically like going from single coil to a humbucker. And sometimes people use a GE7 for that in a reverse way. Maybe they're playing with a Strat. They want to use a Les Paul. They'll use the GE7 to dial back the gain so it doesn't hit your signal, your rig in an overwhelming fashion. Okay, so but if it was before overdrives, what's going to happen is it's going to hit those overdrive pedals and give you even more gain. So it's kind of a fun thing to do. You know, there's many ways you can experiment with it. You just got to know your goal. What am I trying to get out of it? And then you can make those adjustments accordingly. Hope that made sense. That was fun. I like talking about GE7s. I see there was a super chat that came in. Let's see if I can find it. You guys can always do a super chat. We'll jump on those questions as soon as they come in. Thanks, Mark, for the $10 super chat. Just a shout out for the awesome content. I appreciate that, Mark. We do our best. If you remember back in the COVID days, some people think we're still there, some people don't. We're not here to talk about that. But we did this every week, and we're going to start to do it probably every other week and supplement that with some long-form YouTube videos as well, because I realize this is such a really great forum to answer questions and to teach that I want to keep doing it. Let's see here. Man, you guys are active in the chat. This is fantastic. If I miss you guys, I'm sorry. There's a lot of chat going on here, which is great. Love it. Hey, my folks from LR Bags are here. Great to see you guys. Thank you. LR Bags make fine products for your acoustic guitar needs. Use them and enjoy them very much. What's your favorite ways to create triads out of the pentatonic scale? Well, there's triads that are built right in there. Of course, A minor. There is a C major, which is nice when you have to play a C. Because if you have an A minor, you also have like a C6 sound. So there's triads within there for sure. Your A minor, your C for sure. That's kind of the two that I look for the fastest would be those two. Because you could, right there's an A minor triad. Actually, let me delete that loop and check this out. So we got an A minor loop going. There's all A minor triads there. And it's a great way to kind of get started. I love the Lonnie Brooks or Otis Rush. That kind of thing. I think it was more of a, yeah. A minor triad there, here, here. Let me think about this. So they're everywhere, and you just got to find them within the scale itself. So yeah, that's how you would find those. Thanks for BB jumping in and asking answering some of those gear questions. Yeah, Donnie asked that question. Okay, we got you, Donnie. I think I answered your question too, Donnie, about the GE7. Clive says, Sir Corey is really good. I would love to be British to be knighted one day. That'd be amazing. That'd be so cool. Thank you for learning one of those solos. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's see here. Who else? Do you see these patterns as part of the chord shapes, i.e. cage? I absolutely do not. I see them as the notes that are in the scale. The only way I look at it as a pattern is the pattern that I've learned. I imagine, that kind of thing. If you're thinking C major, yeah, you can do that. You could certainly think about that as like a C major or an A minor kind of thing. I just don't see them that way. It's not the way that I learned how to play. And also, here's the reason I don't see them like that is because if we have A minor pentatonic, if I start that, and I talk about this extensively in the course, the major pentatonic course, if we start it from a C, now we get our C major pentatonic, okay? Now if you want to see that as a C chord in the caged realm, you certainly can. And if we emphasize the C to C as opposed to A to A, you'll hear the difference in emphasis as we point out those particular notes when we're playing. So the reason I also like learning this scale is because we can add 2 more notes, and now we'll have an A natural minor scale, which is also the same as a C major scale. So this is how I learned. I learned my pattern, right? And then my original guitar instructor taught me A natural minor, which is also C major. So from there, I could see it, and all I had to do was drop in 2 more notes to the 5-note sequence, and I had a whole new world. And when I was playing metal for like 6 months of my guitar playing life when I was a kid, I wanted to hear all that kind of stuff. I wanted to do that stuff. And the pentatonic scale wasn't getting me there. And really, as I dissected, like, oddly enough, we're talking about the Greeny guitar, like, and Kirk Hammett being the owner, like, I listened to, you know, Metallica, for instance, and then they were doing, and it was all right in that natural minor scale. So it made a lot of sense. And then when I wanted to play Allman Brothers, and I wanted to play E major, I knew E major pentatonic. But then I also knew, that wasn't the best loop in the world, but so I was able to say, wow, I can play all of this stuff now and emulate some of my heroes just by using major, minor pentatonic, major and minor scales. And that got me through so many years of my playing until I started checking out, you know, players that were more advanced. Not to say that players I was emulating in any of those, you know, bands or guitar players, but folks that were in the fusion realm, the jazz realm. I wanted to learn arpeggios and that sort of stuff. Once I got into that stuff, it really changed my life. So I don't even know. Oh, all that from the caged question. But you got a mouthful there. Yeah, cool to see a Powers guitar. I'm really loving both. I have two of them. One, if you watch the video I did a video all with Andy talking about these really, really cool instruments. They sent me one to check out, and I bought one also. So, yeah, it was a really fun way to kind of get to know Andy better. Andy K, when learning pentatonics, a game changer for me was to take a step back, which is a huge step forward, and ensure that the notes I'm actually fretting sound great. Good vibrato and bends and in tune. Couldn't agree more. The cool thing about pentatonics and learning techniques like bending, like hammer-ons, pull-offs, sliding, double stops, all that kind of stuff, is that it's really the perfect playground for it. When you want to learn how to bend a string, like a whole step bend from a D to an E, and we're here, we have a note that will keep us honest. We want to bend up a whole step from that D to that E. So now if we know our scale, we can visualize. We could do that. We could do that, but I like to keep it on the same string because it's just visually more appealing to me. It makes sense. Oh, I'm bending from here to get to there. Sorry, there. Blank space. So I play the note. So it's a great sort of breeding ground for techniques, and he's right. Andy is right. Got to make these techniques sound good, because even if you're just playing those 2 or 3 string ideas, you'll sound more polished. You know, it'll definitely be more impressive because you got your bends in tune and your notes fretted properly. Same thing with a pull-off or a hammer-on. I like to make my pull-offs sound like I'm picking. Try to have a nice even touch with the pick. I want my pull-offs and picking to almost be the same sound. How about hammer-ons? So I want them to be almost the same, but still be able to give me the sound I want and the speed I want, if necessary. So yeah, definitely get your techniques together. Let's see, Shannon's dropping some stuff in. Pattern 3 is obviously the first one we all learn, and it's so easy. What's the best way to cement the other 4 into my brain so that it has relativity to the root on the 5th and 6th string? Well, pattern 1 is one I like to start with, and I think a lot of folks start with, because that root is on the 6th string. And I would really get that down before you get anything else. And then I would expand from there. I would definitely learn 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. You're going to live a lot in pattern 1 anyway. Lots of riffs are created by our favorite guitar players in pattern 1, definitely. Let's see here. I'm going to use where's my mouse? Is my mouse pad working? Here we go. So yeah, pattern 1. Shannon corrected it. You got it. I would also I would always do it from bottom to top, but also be looking for the root notes. There's an A as a nice landmark. Because root notes will help you out when you're soloing as something to land on if you get lost. Hey, Weps, thank you so much. Instant thumbs up. Hopefully other folks enjoy it too. Okay, so I don't understand how to play what I see on the chart. Which note is played first, then second? Great question, because we want to talk about this pattern. So if we look at the black note there where it says E, that's just showing E, A, D, G, B, E. So it's the black note there in that very first position is the 6th string, and in this case, it can be on any fret, but we're starting on the 5th fret there. Okay, I didn't want to put frets on that because it's universal. You can transpose it anywhere. So it's going to be 6th string is on the bottom. I don't have a pointer where I can show you guys, unfortunately. But 6th string here is on the bottom, and then the pinky is going to reach over 4 frets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 in this case. And then we're going to go up a string, and you're going to see those 2 open white dots there on the A string, like that, and then follow it from there. So the diagram is like upside down, basically. It's like you're looking at the guitar that way. Well, that way. It's not the other way around. I think a lot of people get confused by that. It's if the guitar is like kind of laying like that too. So 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. Okay? Hopefully that helps, and then you want to follow that. Now, pattern-wise, I like to do second pattern. I like to start with the 2nd and 4th, and then go 1st, 4th, 1st, 4th, 1st, 3rd, shift over 1, 3, 1, 3 with my fingers. You will need to do this at some point, but when we're playing pentatonics, I like to switch over because I'm going to get a lot of bluesy rock action right there. You hear all your favorite players do that. They rarely go with their pinky and 2nd finger. You just don't see it. As we go up, if there's a 1 and 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, I'm moving a little bit faster because some folks know this, but you can always go back to the video. In this instance, I'm on the 10th and 12th frets, and I just did 1, 3, 1, 3. Now I go back and I go 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4 on the 9th and 12th, and you can see that in position, sorry, I'm pointing like you guys can see, position 3. Then I go back up, and I'm going to go 1, 4 here. You could also go 1, 3. That's our root, 2nd string, black dot there on the B string, and then frets 10 and 12 there on 1 and 3. Then I go 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3, shift up, 1, 3, 1, 3, or 1, 4. As the frets get closer, you can kind of decide which fingers you want to use. Now, I'm a big fan of trying to get them all in play. My first guitar teacher ever said, this is $100, and if someone took $25 away from you, you'd be upset, right? I don't care how much you see Clapton or Jimmy Page or anybody use those 3 fingers. Excuse me, you're going to need that 4th one at some point, okay? Going to be super important. Now, if you go up here and you're playing pattern 5, you could go 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 4, or 1, 3, 1, 3. Again, moving fast just here because we're in a live setting and we want to get to some other folks. But down here, you're going to need to go 1, 4, 1, 4 because of the distance of the fret, okay? So hopefully that you understand some fingerings and how to read the chart a little bit better, okay? Great. Let's look at some more folks in the chat. Video always makes me worry about the headstock. I've hit plenty of headstocks. Ken Blevins asks, what guitar is that? This is a Powers electric guitar. I've done a video on this on the channel. Go check it out. Pretty in-depth video. I think it's one of the more unique guitars on the market, and the video talks about that with all of its different ways it's constructed. Oh, thanks, Chief 2112. I appreciate that. Thank you. Again, thank you to Mark for that super chat. Robert says, purchased the Major Pentatonic course. I think it's my 6th or 7th from me. He says he can now almost play guitar. So thanks for the recommendation there, Robert. Appreciate it. Glad it's been helpful. One of the best teachers on the web. Thank you. I appreciate that. I am been working at it for a long time, and I keep trying to get better and better. You could buy more than one clean boost. People do it. You could hit your whole rig with clean boosts, and that would be your overdrive right there. So our friend Yuli is talking about a looper pedal. Keep your eyes peeled for some fun looping stuff in the near future at Working Class Guitar. If you haven't checked out Working Class Guitar, that is my lesson website. Imagine a lot of you know me from TrueFire. Well, workingclassguitar.com is my own personal TrueFire, if there's no other way to describe it. I make courses there. I host them there. We also have a membership in addition to buying courses a la carte. The membership allows you to join our once-a-month Zoom call where we do this kind of thing. And you can get a pretty steep discount if you ask us nicely for the monthly membership. Or you can buy courses like Robert has done and enjoy those as well. But the membership gets you access to the entire site and every course for a low monthly fee, cheaper than most streaming services. All right. Somebody's talking about my friend Ryan Medora. She is amazing. She's great. We had her and her husband over for dinner not long ago, and she's going to be playing a gig with me in a couple months. There's our buddy Jeff. Any tips on getting crisp pull-offs on the 5th and 6th strings? Those are tough, Jeff, because it's a thicker string and your hand. But give the string enough gas. Let me turn off your chat here. I would pick it strongly and really try to get the sound to be even. You don't want this. You don't want it to be hard on the pick and then soft on the hammer-on. You want them to be as matched as you can. But you also want to do it with enough strength that you're not coming from way out here. You want it to be close. If you watch me play, my fingers are very, very close to the fretboard. That's on purpose. When you're doing pull-offs, again, you want to give it enough gas on the pick and pull down in that instance to where it matches. That's the kind of example I might do. If you can get that scale to sound as even as possible on all strings with that technique, you'd be in good shape. Yeah, so hopefully that's helpful, my friend. All right, more questions. Live to play guitar. I'm hoping that's guitar porn is what that emoji is, because we don't want anything unsavory on the channel. Hey Corey, question: what pentatonic scale do you like to use on the 4 chord with the flat 7 in the chord? So that translates to like a blues going to the 4 chord. That chord doesn't hang around very long, only for 2 measures usually in a 12-bar blues, and the A minor pentatonic scale is going to cover most notes in that. It's going to cover, you're going to get a D, which is the root. You're going to get an E, which is like a 9 sound against it. You're going to get a G, which might not sound the best, but it actually kind of works. It gives you almost like a sus type of sound. And then the fifth is the A. So most of the notes in that scale will give you what you're after. So, you know, So I don't like to chase it around with a scale. That's usually what a lot of people try to do at first. What I will do there is still stick to kind of pentatonic land. Listen to your heroes, you know, BB, Albert, you know, Freddie King, you name it. They will all still stick to that. What folks might do is if you're playing a blues, you might play major pentatonic over the 1. 4 chord. So the 4 chord go to the minor pentatonic, 1st chord, major pentatonic. I have like a screen, a lens, a stream deck that brings up all the stuff when I push it. And sometimes I'm not looking at my guitar. Mistakes happen, but don't let that get you down. All right, Jeff, go practice that for sure. Yeah, it's been a good stream. We started about 45 minutes ago. Still got 80-some folks with you. If there's not any other questions, I think I'm just going to leave you guys with that. Don't forget about all the great stuff in the links. There's 25 copies of Major Pentatonic Unlocked at a big 60% off discount. Once those are gone, they're gone. If the link did not work for you, you can always email us at support@workingclassguitar.com. We're also trying to do some special sales on these live streams as well. And not only do we have that for sale, but we also have the giveaway of the Epiphone Greeny guitar. This is one of the inspired by Gibson models. I don't have it here. It's in the case. Once I do the video, I try to not touch it again. I try to give it a little polish, you know, and make sure the strings are good, that I didn't sweat on it too much because it's going to go to somebody. And if you've been a loyal follower of mine for many years, maybe you've won a guitar. I've given so many away, like 4 PRSs, a couple Epiphones. I have a Strat back there I'm probably going to give away as well. It's a really fortunate situation some of us find ourselves in when we do this stuff on the internet, and then companies like Sweetwater, for instance, want to work with us and say, hey, we want to help you grow because it helps us. And it's a really, really great partnership, not only with them, but other brands too. And honestly, I'm just really working with Sweetwater for the most part because they treat us all in such a good way, folks that work with sponsorships and such with them. And the problem is every manufacturer, they all work differently. So the easy button for us is Sweetwater because they just take care of us and they really help us grow. They don't ask us to hang a Sweetwater banner. They don't ask us to wear a Sweetwater shirt. Let us do what we want on our own channels the way we want to. And that's so refreshing. So don't forget to enter to win that. You can do some special things like subscribe to not only my YouTube channel, but my Instagram. You can watch a video about the guitar as well. And speaking of subscriptions, we are getting close to 100,000 subscribers, and I'd love to hit that mark by the end of the year. I think we will, but your help would be much appreciated. So speaking of appreciate, we love to having the wonderful BV with us to disseminate the links and answer some questions as well. BV just does an amazing job. So thank you for everything to BV and everybody that's been here. Yeah, thanks. The Range, Sweetwater does rock. We'll get one little chat back up here before we exit. Little classic Joe Bonamassa emoji there. Yeah, so the links are out there. The information's out there. Check out Major Pentatonic Unlocked. We will do a minor pentatonic course at some point because I realized after 10, 15 years of teaching like this, I've never done a minor pentatonic course. So we'll do that too. There's more stuff over at Working Class Guitar, which is my home for all my lessons. And I hope you visit us and take a look at what we have to offer. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you to everybody. Appreciate all of the support. Of course, thank you to BV, and we'll see you next time. I'm Corey. Let me know what you want to see me teach on, and we'll do it in this setting. Until then, have a good weekend.